We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. The way to the end zone, and Georgia is going to conquer the Crimson Tide.
So how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told them.
Hope it didn't take that long again. Go Dogs.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 100 Sanford podcast. We are in the building. It is another day, 3-0. I'm happy to see my fellas, Mr. Coffee, Mr. Foster. What's going on tonight?
Man, just chilling, getting ready for another good week of college football. Sorry, you were breaking up a little bit there. It was hard to hear you.
I'm a little bit broken up, man. Broken up like South Carolina? That type of broken up?
Man, the dogs have won 20 straight, Bubba. 20.
That's true.
20 straight.
Is it that many?
Can't beat that.
Yes, sir. 20 straight.
That's 32 and straight, 1 in the last 33.
20 straight. 30. Yes.
32 and 1 since the start of 2021. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. That's a lot of wins. That's a lot of butt whoopings that we done handed out. That's a lot of speeches that Kirby done laid out at halftime. A lot of good things that have happened in the last 2.5 years for them dogs, man. You can't beat that. You can't.
You know what's funny?
What's up?
You know what's kind of crazy? Like our intro when that little soundbite at the end, and Kirby's like, I hope it don't take that long for the next. it was like the next calendar year.
That's funny.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I hope it don't take that long for the next. Yeah, it was the next year. Yeah, man. Let's do it again.
Yeah, man. We got to try that again. We got to get another one in. It's trying to go for the three-peat. I think right now our sound's a little bit off. Something's happening. We're glitching a little bit. So, folks, we apologize in advance for that. But
yeah, I can't hear either of you.
You're out?
What's
going on, Coffee?
I can't hear either of you guys.
I have no idea, man. Let's see if we can get this thing working for you. Or you can get it working on your side.
Beep, beep.
We only 3 minutes.
Oh, that's what that sounds like. Yeah,
that's crazy. Hey, do us a favor, Coffee. Go out, come back in, see what happens.
All right.
Check this out. While he's doing that, thank you for joining the 100 Sanford podcast. As usual, we are in full swing, and we really want you to be a part of the movement. That's right, the Sanford Squad, as so eloquently coined by our guy George Foster. That's right. Subscribe and let us know what is going on. Follow us on YouTube. Know when the new shows are released and drop. Get ready for great guests that we have. Possibly tonight. We got one lined up tonight if everything goes according to plan. Also, head on over to IG, TikTok, and the X. Follow us and repost, as we can only appreciate what you do. Lastly, become a member of the Collaboration for the Nation. That's right, Dawg Central. Great forum. You get all the podcasts, all the intel, and you know what? You get all the dogs coming together, a little bit of dog love, pepping us up, making sure everybody's feeling okay week to week, because we know what happened last week. Everybody was up and down, and, people didn't know what to do for the first quarter and a half, first 2 quarters. But you know what? When you're a part of that nation like that, we're able to hold each other accountable, hold each other up, and keep on moving. But week 3 is in the books, Mr. Foster. We had South Carolina, and I want to know what your thoughts were coming out of the South Carolina game, because, again, people were all up in arms for the first couple quarters, but you know what they're going to do. You know what those dogs are going to do.
Yeah, it's football, man. It didn't go how I thought it was going to go. I thought we were going to blow them out. But the main thing was the main thing, and we won. So, I knew we'd win. Even when it was when it didn't look too great. And I think I sent out a tweet. I said, "Hey, we're gonna win this game. We're just gonna win it different than I thought we were gonna win it." You know what I mean? But they showed some resolve in that second half, and they took care of business. Like they did exactly what they were supposed to do that second half, both sides of the ball, and that's encouraging. You know what I mean? You have to win the tough games. You have to find a way to win when you're down. Like, and I think this team and this coaching staff is the type of staff that can take that game and learn from it and apply it to the rest of the season.
Facts. You know, as soon as they were down at halftime, I think I sent out the message in the tweet of what you said a couple weeks ago. This team is going to win. It's just going to be a little bit different. And you've seen this before. You've seen it from this team before. And I think people just need to chill and relax because it's not like this team has to win the exact way that they've won the last couple years. We've seen it. The first national championship was explosive defense that took him to the national championship game and won that season, right? With Stetson having his first title underneath his belt, but he was now the quarterback that was underneath center when it started off with JT Daniels. Then the second championship, you get an explosive offense. The defense was still great, but the offense was explosive, and they could score anytime they wanted to from any point on the field. Monken was dialing things up that we've never seen before, and we saw an offense that was explosive, that was opportunistic anytime that they touched the field in any area of the field. Now it's year 3, and we're going for this three-peat. You might get a little mixture of both. Mm-hmm. You might get a game with an explosive offense. You might get a game with an explosive defense. But one thing about it, you are never going to see Georgia self-implode where they're giving up explosive plays and they're failing to get explosive plays like Kirby always talks about. So, like you mentioned, it's just going to be a different ride that we're on. And I think people should just chill, enjoy the ride, man. It's like, dang, we don't have to get to January already. Just enjoy each week. Like Kirby said at halftime, play by play. Let's go week to week as Dawg Nation. Graham, what you got to say about that?
I mean, I think this is the type of game that maybe we look back on and a corner is turned, or it's the type of game you look back on and it was a canary in the coal mine and your offense isn't as good as you think it is, right? Like, let's just be honest here. I know that we this is a Georgia podcast and we have a positive spin on things a lot of times because things are positive when you've been 29-1 or 32-1 over the last however many games, right? There's not much to complain about, and I don't think there's a lot to complain about now. What impressed me in the game on Saturday was the swiftness with which Georgia responded. And, I'll give you a good stat. That was the first time since Vanderbilt game in 1999 that Georgia has trailed an opponent by double digits at halftime and won the game by double digits. Never happened in the last 24 years besides that.
99?
99. Yeah, it's been a long time. So, I mean, like Missouri last year.
I just realized what you said. I played in that game.
Did you really? I was wondering about that.
It was at Vanderbilt, and they had Woody Woodenhofer.
I remember that guy.
And like we were stinking up the joint. We were stinking up the joint. And Coach Leon Perry came in the locker room, running back coach Leon Perry, and he cussed all of us out. He cussed all of us out. He was it taking one of my homeboys. They remember it more so than I do. But we talk about it all the time that, because Vandy used to, Vandy would sneak you sometimes. They had a few. They would always have some guys on defense, and then they would sneak you on offense sometime. And we was just stinking up the joint. And we came out, and Woody started doing some stuff that got him fired eventually. Probably squibbing or doing some crazy stuff. Yeah, doing crazy stuff like that. That led us back in the game, and we end up, of course, making them look like Vanderbilt. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's funny. Funny you say that. I played in that game.
Yeah, and I mean Georgia on Saturday they ended up making South Carolina look like South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Like no disrespect. I thought Spencer Rattler was phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if I've come as much 180 on a player over the course of his college career as I have on Spencer Rattler, from kind of being a little prima donna-ish at Oklahoma to playing on a team behind a bad offensive line that is not, a championship contender, and just hanging in and delivering darts, knowing that he's going to get hit almost every play. I was really impressed with him, and I think he's going to be an NFL prospect. I think for Georgia, the positive thing is they had a 56% offensive success rate, which is a pretty elite number against an SEC opponent. Like that's good, very efficient offense. What scares me was the lack of explosiveness. I mean, just the inability from Carson Beck to see two guys that were wide open for easy touchdowns on pass plays in the first half is something that can't continue. And, Dejan Edwards, really good in the run game. I don't know there's been a more underrated player during this run that Georgia's been on than him. The way he leans, the way he picks holes, like total shot in the arm for an offensive line that, is still kind of trying to find their footing this season. And just his ability to pick holes in zone is something that I think is really underappreciated. But, yeah, I mean, in the third quarter, Georgia had an offensive rhythm probably for the first time all year. The question is just like, can they get Carson to feel comfortable with some of those more downfield throws? Can they get some more vertical shots into the offense? Because you saw what happened once they hit one, how much easier things came in the run game and how everything opened up. I love the way they used Lovett after halftime. And I don't think Bobo called a bad game in the first half. I just think that, Carson was a little focused on things right in front of him, everything between the hashes, and, kind of was locked in on some guys. And he's, first ever SEC start. Like, there's plenty of time and room for him to improve. But I would be lying if I said that, like, I feel like the way that Georgia played on Saturday can get them where they want to go, because it can't.
All right. Can we say something when it comes to Carson? I mean, this is week 3. This is week 3 of a guy starting for the number 1 team in the nation that people think is supposed to blow teams out of the water, with a brand new offensive coordinator. He's been here before. Bobo's been here before. We understand that. But still, now he's back in the saddle. He is going to have his ups and downs, just like Stetson had his ups and downs when he had taken over in 21. He's going to have his ups and downs in terms of seeing the field, what he trusts, what his eyes trust, what his body trusts, what he trusts in his offensive line, what he trusts in his receivers. This is the first time we've actually seen the first team on the field throughout the entire game. I mean, the guy, if maybe had he played the first team the first 2 games, 3 quarters out of 4, he's more comfortable. He is going to get better. And I agree with you, Graham. There's some plays that I think that he missed downfield, but I'll also say this. There's the shots that were not taken downfield, I think it's to protect how they want to play this season. Kind of going back to how Foss said, it's going to be different. I don't think they want to take big shots down the field yet. I don't know if they trust big shots down the field. I think, especially with the running game not being as efficient as it was the first couple games.
Lamar.
But I'm just saying that it looked better. It looked better.
You call a flea flicker. Where's the ball supposed to go?
Yeah,
for the last guy behind the defense is 15 yards behind the defense.
I mean, get it, bro. I get it. That was a bad throw, but I'm just saying something seems as if they're playing this thing really, really safe. And it was funny because we were texting in our chat, And Dustin, he sends out a message. He's like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" I said, "Watch this. It's going to be. They're going to open this thing up in the second half. You're going to see a pass to Rah-Rah." What happened? As soon as they open up the second half, boom, 40-yard pass downfield to Rah-Rah Thomas.
Yeah,
there you go. I mean, I don't know what they're doing in the first half and how maybe they're trying to make him feel comfortable. Maybe they're trying to get the run game or get some balance. But to me, it's almost like they need to start off that way. Start off explosive and allow the holes to then open up for the run game. I mean, I don't know.
I agree with that. I think you have to understand Carson Beck's journey to this point to maybe fully appreciate what's going on. Like when he showed up at Georgia, all that he did in every practice and every scrimmage was bomb the ball down the field. And to be truthful, I think there was people, within the program that didn't think he would ever really develop the short to intermediate passing game and the accuracy and the ability to protect the football. Like that, I think was a question for a lot of people for a long time. And, from what I understand, Bobo is kind of the one that unlocked that for him and turned him into a guy that, there was a lot of people that didn't think he would ever start at Georgia. And I think what Bobo was able to do with him over the last couple of years, even while Monken was still on staff, really turned him into a guy that could throw accurately at every level of the field. And I've been extremely impressed with his protection of the football. Like, the short throws that he's making, they're not all easy. There's a lot of those throws that are into tight windows and he's timing them right. And he's making sure his guys are sitting down in holes in the zone. Like he's doing a good job. I do think they got to find a way to get him, I think the way that maybe like nerves manifest for him is focusing in on, the middle of the field, focusing in on Brock Bowers, who's a good guy to focus in on, and, throwing some of those short balls. And credit to Bobo, who at halftime realized what was going on. That shot that happened to Rah-Rah to start the third quarter, that happened on a play where there was no short routes. There was no one underneath. Bobo called a play where all three receivers went, at least 25 yards downfield. And I think that unlocked things for him. But the reason that I am anxious or eager to see him do it is because there's people that think that, he throws the prettiest deep ball that of any quarterback that's been in Athens in a very long time. Mm-hmm. And so, I think if he can just I think that as a first-time starter, he knows the only way to lose his job is to not protect the football. And so he deserves credit for protecting the football. And, this is progressing the right way, right? Like you would much rather him come out, be a little too careful, and you build up that confidence and you build up some of that explosive stuff than him come out, try to make throws that he can't make, that he shouldn't make. And, the difference between this game for Georgia on Saturday and the 2019 game that they lost to South Carolina was that in the 2019 game, their quarterback threw 3 interceptions. And on Saturday, they were +2 in the turnover column. So, Carson Beck was a huge difference in there. But I think especially with the running back injuries that continue to pile up, there's got to be some vertical passing attack, some explosiveness to the pass game to help those running backs have the space they need. If Georgia plays in a phone booth, I don't think that's the best way for them to take advantage of their talent. And I'm not saying they're going to or that they want to even. I just think they got to find ways to give Carson, some more primary reads that are downfield. That's my soapbox. I'll step off it.
I think Georgia, as a whole, and definitely with the offense and this quarterback, they are playing it. First of all, the only way to get good at playing quarterback is to games. Point blank, period. You got to play games. And these are the first games where he's had the ball in his hand from the first play on. And so I think he's slowly getting comfortable with being the guy. There's no pressure coming in to the game in the capacity that he's been used in the past. The last couple years, 0 pressure at all, and he looked good every time he came in. Now it's a little bit different. You're tasked with winning the game as opposed to having the game already won. So it's different now. And so I think they're taking it easy. They're progressing, week to week. And, as it goes on, I imagine there'll be more on his plate. And I'm fine with how it's going. I'm definitely fine with how it's going. I feel like I feel like the same thing is happening on defense too. I think they're holding back certain things. You know what I mean? So like I said, I'm fine with how it's going so far. And I think they will eventually, like I said all the time, man, this team is going to win differently than the teams have in the past. And I feel like this staff knows that, and they know exactly how they want to win. And like it was funny to get like a peek into, the staff, or definitely Kirby's mindset with the halftime speech from last week.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had never heard a halftime speech that was that I don't know, formulaic. Like he was like, we're gonna get 6 possessions. We're gonna score on 4. It's gonna start with this. It's gonna start with that. They're not gonna score again. And that's almost exactly how it happened. That's they have this thing down to a science, and it's interesting to watch.
George,
Yeah.
can I say this real quick? To me, when he said that, it was because he knew what they were going to do. When you looked at the first half, even on defense, we talked about the formula last week in terms of how Spencer Rattler was able to move the ball on anybody else. If you don't get pressure on him, he's going to light you up. He's gotten that much better since when he first came into college football. If you don't get pressure on him and you don't get him moving around in that pocket and flush out of the pocket, he's going to light you up. And we saw that in the first half where he was able to move the football. He was efficient. He was getting comfortable. He was throwing the ball downfield to Leggett. But in that second half, when Georgia finally said, you know what, okay, now it's time to let the dogs loose. Now it's time to bring some more exotic blitzes, get him off his mark, get some of these guys moving. You saw them, it was over at that point. So it kind of goes back to even what I was saying, where I guess what we're all saying, they're playing it safe in a lot of instances. When they don't play it safe, they're explosive on both sides of the ball whenever they want to be explosive. I think that they purposely play it safe just to make sure, okay, we're not giving up explosive plays, we're not limiting our explosive plays or turning the ball over. But when they want to, and Kirby trusts his both sides of the ball, they're explosive. And I think we're going to see it more and more as the season goes on. And I think that they haven't even exposed everything. We haven't even seen Brock Bowers really get loose. He had 7 catches for 54 yards, but it was really pedestrian, right? But we haven't seen Ra Thomas get loose. We haven't seen Ladd McConkey yet at all. We just saw the running game get loose. We finally saw a little bit of action from our defensive line getting after the quarterback. They picked off 3 passes, fellas. Nobody was throwing downfield against them in the second half. I mean, they were coming at Spencer Rattler. They were coming at South Carolina. And I think whenever they choose, or when Kirby says, okay, the veil is up, now let's go do what we got to do. That's what you heard in that halftime speech, except you heard it real calm. And I think he looked his guys in the eyes and said, you already know who we are. Ain't no need to panic. Everybody else is panicking, but we know who we are. Now flip the switch. And I think that's what we saw in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I think the second half adjustments were like, yes, the players came out and did their jobs, but I thought the staff, like the adjustments that happened on defense, There was some things that they changed around in the secondary to shut down number 17, who was burning them. Xavier Leggett had, I believe, 67 yards receiving in the first half, and he finished the game with, what was it? 71. They allowed one more catch to him for a few yards. Like, and you saw Lassiter, the first drive of the third quarter after Georgia had scored and they had South Carolina backed up, in the shadow of their own goalpost. He flipped from his usual side of the field. He usually plays the left side of the defense. He came over to the right boundary to cover 17 on 3rd and long. And, Rattler threw up basically a 50-50 ball, right at the sticks, and he broke it up. But it's like, I don't know if number 6 makes that play for Georgia on Saturday in that exact moment, right? Like, that's coaching, putting the right guys in the right position, understanding the only way that Georgia's losing this game is if this dude, this 6'4", 220-pound receiver keeps high pointing over our defensive backs all over the field. So, I mean, and I said earlier, like, I think Bobo deserves a lot of credit. Like, he was in that SEC inside clip as well. And he basically just like said, don't get too caught up in any one play. Just execute, just go out. And, it was a consistent message, I think, across the board from the players to the staff, all levels. And that's culture. Right. But I am very fascinated. What's exciting to me is to see what does this do for Georgia psychologically? Like, I know that there's a lot of players on this team that have been in the program, who've played in big games and won big games, won a national title last year. But like George said, like, a lot of those players are playing different roles now than they were. It's different being a guy that comes in as a reserve when you're up 14 and sacks the quarterback than it is being like the guy that comes in and, takes the game over. And I think you saw on Saturday some guys grow up in a real way where there's I think a level of self-belief that probably comes from this win. And I'm curious to see, does it affect Georgia starting faster? Does, they'll be in a close game again somewhere down the road. Maybe it ain't till January when it happens, but they will play another close game. Like, this game matters and it'll help them somewhere down the road. But we've seen some Georgia teams in the past where they played a game like this and they had that kind of second half where they proved to themselves that they can do what they need to do. And then they go on a little run of just blowing people out of the water from the jump and just playing really clean, well-executed football. And obviously, everybody would love to see this Georgia team do that. And I think it's possible. Like, they go out and smoke UAB in the first half on Saturday, and then they roll down to Auburn and put a whipping on them as well. But we'll see. I mean, I think that's the question, is just, you don't want to play from behind all year. They gotta turn this into better first half starts, I think.
I think having Bullock back is gonna make a world of difference. Like, it was 14 was looking like sticking with his head cut off a lot. So poor guy. Like, it was like, I was like, what's he doing? He was shaky back there for my guy.
He had a rough day.
So
sure.
having 22 back there is going to change some things. I don't know if South Carolina even scores 14 if 22's back there, being the general. Because it was a lot of confusion going on back there in that back end that I could see. So I'll be glad to have him back when he gets back.
You know what, Graham, before we even move forward to UAB, you did mention something. There's always this game. Kirby mentioned it in his speech. If you go back and listen to the speech, he said, fellas, we've seen this against Missouri. We were at the same spot against Missouri, and we turned it on. And I think he put that in their heads because, there's only a few guys in that locker room that were there for Missouri that are now supposedly they're supposed to be the leaders of this team, right? The younger guys didn't experience anything like that. Heck, they were probably shell-shocked. They've probably been shell-shocked all year because they come in, they're like, man, we're supposed to be blowing people out, and I'm not even on the field. You guys are on the field. What the heck is going on? And I think Kirby purposely put that out there. We've seen that against Missouri, fellas. Even though you were not the main guys out there, you were probably part of that rotation. Now it's you, and now it's your time to step up. And I think that this probably will catapult them, like you just mentioned, going into UAB, going into Auburn, seeing a little bit different style of team and how fast they start and how they play against other teams moving forward. But speaking of which, I know our guest is having some technical difficulties right now, so we're going to just continue. But let's move on. Let's move on to UAB. Game 4, night game, 7:30, Sanford Stadium. The lights, right? I mean, What makes me mad about this, though,
I might be up there.
I want a big game. I want a big game with the lights, but it's still the lights. It's still the lights. What are your thoughts?
Ole Miss is going to be under the lights.
Yeah. They might switch it. Right now, it's not scheduled for it, but I think they'll switch it. We need to see.
It's not till November. Is it scheduled yet?
No, I don't think so. I think the only is Mizzou even scheduled. That's November 5th, so I don't think it's scheduled. I need it scheduled. I need to make my plans. But let's get into it, man. Let's get it against. Let's talk about UAB. They got your boy Trent Dilfer, ex-NFL quarterback. Man. What, Trent?
Yeah.
Yeah, ain't nobody talking about Trent like they talking about Prime. Trent.
Well, sucks to suck, as they say,
A little bit different, but you got the 1-2 UAB Blazers coming into Sanford Stadium. What are your thoughts about this game? I mean, we talked about some of the things that we like to see from Georgia, but what are your thoughts against the Blazers and Trent Dilfer?
I mean, look, UAB is a good Group of 5 program, right? Like the last time they came to town was when Stetson had his coming out party in 2021, and you started asking like, oh man, maybe he is good enough to start at this school, right? So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if any sort of moments like that happen Saturday. Like I think this game actually does. Like Georgia's winning this game no matter what, but I think how they win this game and who performs well in this game could, kind of have an impact on the Auburn game the week afterwards. Like looking at UAB, they're definitely a very pass heavy offense, and they have a good quarterback, this Jacob Zeno kid. He's completing 80% of his passes. He's already got 950 yards passing this year. He's attempted 122 passes so far. He does have 3 picks, but they're throwing the ball a lot more than they're running it. They've only ran the ball 70 times this year, and they've thrown it, like I said, they've dropped back to throw it 145 times. So they're basically passing 66% of the time. So secondary is going to get more reps. Definitely, I think what they saw last week will be, much more difficult than what they see this week from UAB. But, I think their defense has struggled so far this year. They do have some issues on their back end. They've given up a lot of points, but it's a game that Georgia should come out and handle from the jump,
I was looking at some film. I don't see anything on film that scares me about UAB. It is a 42-point spread. I don't trust the spread because of how we've seen Georgia look, which is pretty pedestrian in a lot of people's eyes. We don't know if they're going to start fast. We don't know if they're going to start slow. We don't know what we'll get. I would think that in a night game, maybe they come out hyped up. Maybe they come out kicking on all cylinders, pushing this thing to the next level. We don't know. But I tell you what, I want to see something different out of this team. But I think we have somebody that just joined the show, man. I think our guest is coming into the building, Foss.
Yeah.
I think. Hold on. Let's see. Let's see if our guest has arrived. We're gonna try to load him up onto the show here.
Yes, sir. I see him.
Are you there, Mr. Walker? Are you there?
How you gentlemen doing?
Ladies and gentlemen,
the sack master himself.
Yes, sir.
Man, ain't no sack master, man. I'm just trying to get on your level.
He was on.
Huh?
Ladies,
A-Town's finest.
No, man.
The sack master himself.
No. I'm a little wrecky.
ladies and gentlemen, we got to do the proper introductions. We got entering the show none other than the sack master himself, a DGD, an NFL alum. He's gracing us with his presence. I was watching film today, and I just got so excited watching this man play. And I was hoping and praying to God that somebody would bring the passion, somebody would bring the talent, somebody would bring that fire like this man brings. We got D'Andre Walker in the building. D Walker, what is going on?
Look like he done disappeared.
I think we lost him.
Oh man, we lost him. We lost him. He'll be back.
He will be back. But he is a sack master, Foss.
D'Andre Walker. I enjoy watching him play. Yes, he used to get after the cube.
Man, I was watching film today. Foss, and I was like, yo, he reminded me of Greg Blue inside of a linebacker body because he hit people with bad intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Like real bad intentions. You saw some things out of D Walk that was like not common. And when you look at what he brought to this team and the fire and the leadership that man brought, it was yeah, we hear you, D Walk.
Yeah, I keep going in and out of service. I apologize.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We got you here. We appreciate. Yes, sir. We appreciate you joining us. We appreciate you being part of the show. We just giving you your flowers, as they say.
I appreciate it, man. Somebody got to give them to me one day.
Man, what is going on? What you doing these days, D-Walk?
Man, I'm just trying to make a living without playing football.
Man, you with a name like what you got,
gotta do it at some point.
The money just got to keep flowing in. It just got to keep flowing in for you.
I'm trying to get some of y'all money.
That's Foss's money. I ain't got too much. I'm trying to live off Foss, man. Foss.
I got
we want to touch
to have money. They come in, they come out, they go out immediately.
Man, we wanted to bring you on, D-Walk, because we see what the Dawgs are doing, but the Dawgs would not be who they are right now if it had not been for guys like yourself who created this foundation, who created the foundational blocks for multiple national championships. Guys like yourself, you were part of this foundation. Did you see this coming in terms of back-to-back national championships, going for a possible three-peat, and what we have now at Dawg Nation, which is a legacy? Did you see this coming?
Most definitely, because the guys before us, when I was playing, helped start it, and they always was there in our corner motivating us to keep striding and to do better. And that's the same thing we put in starting those guys that played after me and everybody that was on that team after I played, with me when I played. But, I mean, Coach Smart, I take my hats off to him because he ain't doing nothing but recruiting dogs. So, I mean, It's easy. It's easy when, I mean, you got dogs on the team and you done, that's all I can say.
Well, when you talk about dogs, when you got dogs on the team, because y'all had some dogs, what do you think is it just a combination of having those dogs in Kirby's style at this particular time? Or do you think it's just Kirby?
I think it's the culture now for the University of Georgia.
And what's that culture like to you? What do you think that culture is about? Because you know what's funny? You say culture, right? And we just had Alabama players come out and say that they don't even see the same type of passion, the same type of style of play. Maybe it's because of NIL, whatever it may be, but these guys are saying Alabama is no longer the same Alabama. So when you talk about the culture, what are you referring to?
I'm talking about Coach Smart and his staff and the guys that he's recruiting. I'm talking about the players that he's recruiting. I'm talking about, their mentality, the mentality and the support staff that he has around the players to help build that certain mentality to bring dogs to the University of Georgia. And when they get here, make them big dogs. When they get to the University of Georgia, making them big dogs and going out and playing some physical football.
Right.
How much time have you spent? How much time have you been able to spend around this Kirby era? And what do you see that makes you think it's sustainable and that's special about what's going on up there now, from like behind the scenes? Because of course they got
any
they
opportunity
recruit
I
at a high
get, I'm
clip.
trying to be there and watch them put on the show. And if I can help out in any kind of way, then I'm there to help out. But they some hell of a players.
It all starts with the players for sure.
How do you? I mean, I know that you're not there every day in the meetings and all that, but like there was a clip from this weekend that went viral on Twitter with Kirby's kind of halftime speech and how calm he was and just talking about like moment to moment and sort of settling the team down. Like, do you feel like is there anything that you notice from your time when you were there, when he kind of first came into the program to now in terms of how he's changed his approach and communicating with players?
No, I think Coach Smart is a great coach. And I mean, he went to the University of Georgia. He know what they're going to, and he know what they're going through, and he know how to connect with them. So, I mean, he's a great coach.
Gotcha.
You know, what's interesting is that, again, I kind of go back to what Alabama players were saying, and that's the only comparison that we really have because Georgia is now as dominant as what Alabama was.
We ain't got the Alabama is not our comparisons. We beat them. I mean, we won, not them, but we won 2 years back to back. So Georgia is our comparison.
True. Okay, so let's look at it from this point. Let's look. We are the standard. We are the standard.
But University of Georgia is the standard. I didn't get on this call to talk about. I didn't get on this call to talk about Alabama. I got on the call to talk about Georgia.
There we go. Okay, but this is my question though. This is my question. We ain't talking about Alabama. This is my question. If NIL had been active and been present during the foundational years, do you think this program would be the same? Because it's been tough.
I can't speak to NIL because I didn't have it when I was coming up, but I mean, I wouldn't even say NIL has anything to do with it. Those are some great young men that's out there playing great football.
Well, see, here's the reason why I asked that question, because it feels like in today's age, it would be impossible to build the culture. That's what's so amazing to me, and I think Georgia fans, because the culture is not changing. The standard is the standard year to year, and you see guys that are still tapped in when other programs are falling apart. So I think what most people want to do, they want to lift up the veil and find out how are they doing it in Athens? So I think that's the question.
I think they're recruiting great young men, and even if they falling short of the standard when they get to the University of Georgia, the players that's there that understand the standard is helping teach the standard to those kids that may be falling short. And at some point, they have no choice but to understand the standard and live up and play to that standard. And Coach Smart and his staff has a great way about going and getting those players. So, I mean, that's that.
Facts.
I think sometimes you may try to dig too deep in on why is it this and why is it that, but enjoy that moment, live in that moment, and enjoy it as a fan, as a player, as a coach, that's it. Live in that moment and enjoy that moment while you got it.
Before you got on, we were just talking about that. Go ahead, Foss.
Yeah, it would be easy to, just want the next thing. Like all the talk now is the 3-peat. But when you sit back and think about it, you look at the last couple of years, them being like 32-1, and it's kind of like that in itself is it's amazing, and it's easy to get caught up in trying to go in for the next championship, but like these guys are doing some stuff that I don't know all the history, but at least in the modern times, it's got to be pretty unprecedented. You know what I mean? It's really cool to see happen. Like, there's not a next chance they could lose a game. Like, they really shouldn't lose a game. You know what I mean? If we're being honest, but the chance to lose a game doesn't seem like it's nowhere in sight. You know what I mean? If they play how they're supposed to play, and like that's just win after win after win. And if you total them, it's like it's some really good stuff happening. You know what I mean? And I think DeAndre's right. Gotta enjoy the moment. Gotta enjoy the moment because it's not for sure.
Facts.
Definitely not normal.
Did we lose you, D-Walk?
No, I'm here. I'm enjoying the moment. I'm enjoying this moment right now, being on this podcast.
Hey, what's funny is that we were just talking about enjoying the moment, right? But I got a question. So now you're not playing. You're a fan of the game. You're watching it just like we're watching it, moment to moment. What have your thoughts been upon this team early on? Because everybody's kind of been wondering what type of team this is going to be. Like Foss has already said the first couple episodes that the Dawgs are just going to be, it's going to be a different style of team. It's going to be a different style of win that we see. What do you see about this 23 team that you like, things that you don't like, and what you kind of can foresee here in the future as the season goes on?
I think they playing I think they just got to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. I haven't, honestly, it's only 3-4 games in. I haven't seen enough football to determine it. But what I will say is they have to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. And I know the culture of they just got to beat the teams that they got to beat. It's only 3 games in. I can't speak to that as much as as much as I want to. But I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
I'm driving now though, so.
Hey man, you a busy man. You on the move. You making that money. We already know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Graham. I know you wanted to ask that question.
I'm listening. They just got to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat.
Facts.
Only 3 games in, you can't determine the season off of 3 games.
No doubt.
They still got a lot of football to play.
So speaking of football that was played, do you have a favorite game that you played in when you were at UGA?
Oh, man. I have a bunch of games. I remember that North Carolina game when we was on special teams. I ran down, knocked the shit out of
I saw that clip the other day, man. You did knock the shit out of that guy. That's as good as I've ever seen.
And then another one in mine. I remember that year we lost to Alabama in the regular season, came back in the SEC championship and beat the shit out of them. I just love that game so much because it was loud and the Dawg fans are amazing. But yeah, so the UNC game that year we beat them in the SEC championship. The Rose Bowl was pretty dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Notre Dame when you guys went up there? What was that like with all the Georgia fans taking over that place on the road?
Notre Dame, that was pretty special. I knew he was gonna beat the shit out of them.
You know, my question is like during that year, and I know you guys had a lot of them, but who was the leader of that team? Because you always hear about this 23 team, this 22, 21, whatever. You seem like an emotional leader that really set the tone physically and things like that. But who was like the biggest leaders of that team that kind of pushed you guys into great things that senior year?
Honestly, I can't remember back that far, but I mean the guys that you would kind of expect: Nick, Sony Michelle, Lorenzo Carter, the quarterback Jake Fromm. I mean, we had some great guys on the team that was willing to step up and be great leaders.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Foss. I thought you were asking a question.
I enjoy watching. None, man. I enjoy watching you guys play, man. Like I could see how I eventually got scouting after I played, and man, I just knew. I was like, hey, that 15, he got some juice. He got some juice. You know, that 15 can get after it, so I started having to do my research. And I say, yeah. And I like being right, You end up having a great career. You end up going to NFL. What you go second round, second, third?
No, I didn't go second round, but I mean, I appreciate it. You're probably thinking about DeAndre Baker. This DeAndre Walker.
No, I know you ain't Baker.
Yeah. No, I didn't go. I didn't have the pleasure of going second round, but I mean, I got drafted.
You got drafted though.
Yeah, man.
Man, how was that feeling, man? To get drafted, because like it's not people don't understand how rare it is to be able to get drafted into the NFL.
Yeah, I can't sit on this podcast and lie, but it wasn't a great feeling the round I got drafted in when you're expected to go high.
Yeah, you expect to go high, but you went.
Yeah, it wasn't a great feeling.
Definitely. Hey, that's your truth, and you have to tell your truth.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, it wasn't a great feeling to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did get drafted, and I'm grateful and thankful for it. But my injury set me back.
Yeah.
But
yeah, play a violent game.
Yeah.
Violent game.
D-Walks, go ahead. Sorry.
No, my name was called, and I mean, I appreciate the Tennessee Titans taking a chance on me.
Yes, indeed.
Speaking of injuries, I just had a quick question. Have you had a chance to reach out to Nick Chubb? I know that he had that bad injury, and I know probably a lot of teammates try to reach out to him. Have you had a chance to reach out to him and see how he's doing?
No, I didn't have a chance to reach out to him. I reposted it on Instagram, and when the time is right, I'll have my opportunity to speak with him. And I mean, he's a hell of a player and a dog outside of the University of Georgia. So, I mean, I'm sure he's doing the appropriate things to get back and get healthy. But it's too much going on right now for me to be trying to talk to him and tell him how I feel about his injury.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure he's getting that from everybody. So, like I said, when the time is right, I'll speak to him and we'll catch up.
Gotcha. Well, hey, man, we appreciate you coming on, just blessing us with your presence for a few moments. We know you're a man about business and trying to get some things done. But hey, before you go though, we want you to shout out your future endeavors, what you're trying to do as a businessman. Let the fans know so we can help you and Dawg Nation can come and support.
I appreciate it. I have a pressure washing and car detailing business. You can follow me on Instagram at Dawg on Clean. My phone number is 404-618-9501. If you call, text, DM me on Instagram, that's how you can get in touch with me. And if you want to schedule an appointment and hear some stories, hell, I'm here for it.
Doggone clean. Spell it out for everybody.
You should tell them.
DAWGGONECLEAN. Clean.
Yes, indeed.
Doggone clean.
Yes, sir. I've seen the stuff that you put on Instagram. I tell you what you should also do, man. Tell them they can come. They can put on a uniform, and you'll even hit them if they want to get hit. Because some people want that stuff, man. Some people want some of that.
That's an upcharge.
He trying to get physical.
That's too much smoke right there.
It's the upsell right there.
No, man. No, we appreciate you coming on, D-Walk, man. You're welcome anytime. You're a DGD, one of the best that's ever done it at Georgia. And, again, big ups to you and the business, and we hope that everything goes well.
I appreciate you guys having me. We got to do it again.
Yes, sir.
For sure, man. You be safe out there.
By the way, I missed my turn because I was on the phone with you all.
You're gonna end up somewhere good. Don't worry about it.
Trying to go get something to eat. I'm hungry.
All right, boss.
For real, that's the Instagram.
Yes,
and
sir.
Always remember, don't take the lows too low and the highs too high. You'll be in a great situation.
Yes, sir.
You gotta get right down, my man.
Sound advice.
All right, boss.
Thanks, DeAndre.
All right, fellas. That was D Walker. He was, man, I was looking at film today on him, Graham, and you talk about some of those big hits. You talking about the North Carolina game?
Yeah.
Man, he laid old boy out. Then I was looking at the game against Oklahoma. That was a big game of his.
Mm-hmm.
And the LSU game. The Joe Burrow, when Joe Burrow first came on the scene, what was it, junior year? I think it was the end of his junior year.
Oh, 2018?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
he had a couple big sacks against that LSU team. So
yeah. I mean, look, if you think about Georgia, right, like Kirby, they've played this kind of team style defense, where these guys are trying to collapse the pocket. They're not trying to shoot gaps as much. And I mean, you look at him, like what were his stats? I think he had how many sacks? 7.5 sacks.
Yeah, I was going to say 8 sacks. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a lot for a Georgia outside linebacker, That's more than Trevon Walker had, and he was the number 1 pick. Like dude was a ball player. Not to mention, I'll never forget that UNC game when he came down on kickoff coverage, busted a double team, busted the ball, the kick returner, because Brock Heward was announcing that game, and he was like, in all of the time that I have watched football and covered football and announced football, that is the best I've ever seen that done. Like, I have never seen somebody break a wedge better than DeAndre Walker did just then right there. So
this is all we heard. That's it. I mean, go back on YouTube, look it up. He blew that up. But yeah, I agree, Graham. I mean, you start looking at how many sacks he had, and it was a lot of one-on-one matchups he was winning. It wasn't anything exotic. It wasn't anything, that they dialed up for, stunts or anything like that. He was winning a lot of one-on-one matchups. And that's why I call it, I'm calling this podcast, this episode, the foundational blocks. Those guys were the foundation, man. They set the precedence of leadership and how this team is supposed to win. And when you really go back and look at that year, what did Kirby say at the end of the year? We're not going nowhere, and we'll be back. And from that point on, It wasn't smooth sailing, but they were building those blocks to get to the point of winning those games. But let's get back to UAB, man, before we switch out and go to some predictions. But George, what do you expect to see this week against UAB? Again, they come in at 7:30 on Saturday. You should probably be lit by then, but what are your thoughts?
Hopefully I'll be there to enjoy some of the festivities under the lights. I expect to see. I think this will be the game that they put it all together. I think we have another solid game from Beck. I think I don't think they'll divulge, too much, as far as the playbook goes. Still can't do that. It's still UAB. It's still early in the season. Still, there's, they have a plan and they have a goal, and that's to three-peat. And so they're taking it, game by game. But I think they're going to put it all together. They got the run game going last week with Dejon, and that was really good. I think we're probably going to see more of Dylan, back there, here and there, adding more and more to his plate as far as what he can do. So I'll probably see more of him. Probably see more everybody. Probably some more cash. More cash money.
Cash money.
You see him do the sign. I like it. You gotta do the same. Your name is Cash. You gotta do the money sign. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And I think,
hey man, you gotta have things ready on here.
And I think
cash money.
I think defense. I think defense is one area where I think they're gonna try to lock it on down for real. Because last week, I'm pretty sure Kirby wasn't happy with that first half last week. You know what I mean? So I think they're gonna tie up some loose ends on that defense last week. I know for a fact he doesn't like giving up 14 points. No, that's unacceptable. He'll take it in a win, but I know that's not the standard for Georgia the last handful of years. It's not the standard at all. And so I think they want to get back to the standard of not letting people get in that end zone. So I'm looking forward to the game this weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking for. I mean, last week I called that Beck would throw for over 300. He probably could have. I think where was he at? Like 270, 280. He didn't have any touchdowns.
I believe.
Yeah, he didn't have any touchdowns, but I thought we were going to see more of a breakout game. I'm calling it again, another breakout game. I think that he's getting more and more comfortable, and I think with Dejon Edwards coming back, it allowed him to be more comfortable because. Can you imagine? I mean, you got the keys to this Maybach, and you're out there, you're driving it, and you're just like, okay, as long as I don't crash this bad boy. That's really how Beck is. That's the situation he's in, as long as I don't crash. But it's a lot easier when you got in the passenger seat, somebody else with another steering wheel who can take over if need be. And that's what that running game does for a guy like him. He's an older quarterback, but younger quarterback, only 3 games in. And that running game is only going to help. I think he's just going to get more and more comfortable. And we're seeing all of these guys, all these playmakers really get a handle on the playbook. Guys like Rod Thomas, guys like Lovett. We're starting to see some guys get healthy in Dejon Edwards. I think we're just going to continue to see this offense evolve. I'm also like you, Foss. I think defensively, Kirby doesn't like it. He takes it personal, and I think he's going to challenge his defense even more to be more explosive. What I like to see going into this game, they run a lot of RPO, UAB does, but what I'd like to really see are our defensive backs step up and be aggressive. I know it's not a calling card of a Kirby Smart defense. If you look at it, those guys, they play the ball very well. But corners, the DBs do not aggressively attack, and I'm talking go after picks. I'm talking about really try to make plays on the ball. It's almost like a bend but don't break type situation and allow that, the safeties to kind of take over on the back end. But I would love for these DBs to just take over because there's a lot of plays that are left on the field defensively that I think these DBs could have a heck of a day picking off some passes and let those guys get some shine. We saw Everett get a little bit better during the game. He was a little bit shaky early on, but got better during the game. Lassiter, can't wait to see him continue to grow. But I think we're going to see this defense really start to stretch out a little bit more in this defensive ends in our defensive front really kind of get off because they got to get better as well. Because I think the first couple quarters going in against South Carolina, that was problematic. They were the ones not getting pressure and allowing what's the boy's name? Spencer. Yeah, Rattler to be comfortable. But I think we're gonna see a little, something a little bit different. But Foss, we had to let Graham had to get off right now. But let's talk about some predictions, man. Let's get into that. We always do this weekly, in terms of what we think is going to happen in the game, the score of the game. Not only that, we got some big national games that people probably want to talk about or hear about. But what's your score prediction on this Georgia UAB game?
I say 42-7.
Okay, so they ain't covering the spread, but still, we see a little bit of breathing room. I'm actually going to go big on this one, man. I'm going 55-6, 55-7, something of that nature. I really do think that this offense really starts to turn it on, and maybe we see some defensive touchdowns, special teams touchdowns. But I don't see UAB coming in and hurting us in any particular way, exposing anything. They're just not there yet. But I think it's going to be a fun time in Athens. But let's talk about some other games real quick before we get up out of here, man. Ole Miss and Bama. Bama nearly lost last week, and I know D-Walk didn't want to talk about Bama. This is a Georgia show, but we still got to talk about some of the SEC teams. Ole Miss and Bama. What's your thoughts? Who you think comes out of that game?
It's gonna be interesting to see the plan they have for Milroe. Gonna be interesting to see how he reacts to having his job taken out, getting his job back. Is that gonna boost his play? Is there gonna be some hangover from losing his job? It's tough not to pick Ole Miss. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
I'm gonna have to go Ole Miss. Ole Miss. 28. No, I'm gonna go Ole Miss 31. Bama 21.
Woo, man. I want to pick
21.
I want to pick Ole Miss really bad. I just feel somehow, some way though, Bama squeaks this one out. I'm not a big fan of Milroe, but I agree with what Graham talked about. Me and Graham, I think, said it episode 1, man. If Bama ended up losing to Texas, then we're going to see a few losses, and I think we are going to see that. They're a mess underneath the center. They're just a mess, and they don't know what they want to do. They don't have an identity yet. But I think that Ole Miss somehow happens to fumble that somehow, and their opportunities of beating Bama. They got to play them in Tuscaloosa. I'm going to go Bama 27-24, something like that. I don't know how Bama gets the points, but we'll see. Another big one, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Big game. Number 5, number 9. We always talk about Notre Dame being overrated, but it seems like they're starting to get a little bit more horses, a little bit more stability about them. Ohio State isn't who they were. They had some hiccups early on, but now Cal McCord is kind of getting his feet wet, kind of like Carson Beck is getting his feet wet. I'm going to actually go Ohio State wins this one 31-27, but it's a toss-up to me, even though they're playing in South Bend.
I'm gonna go unusual and pick an upset. I'm gonna pick an upset. Notre Dame. I'm gonna pick Notre Dame with the man Sam the man, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 21.
Nice.
28-21. Notre
28-21.
Dame.
The Fighting Irish.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. The last game. This is the earlier
Fighting
game. This is a national game. Last game for you. We got it. We got to talk about it. Everybody else talking about it. Let's talk about it. Coach Prime going up against Oregon. It's the game of the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the game of the year right now in terms of the Pac-12. Travis Hunter's out for 3 games. What are your thoughts? It's Oregon at Colorado, 3:30 game. That place is going to be electric. Who you think comes out?
I think what surprisingly, Colorado has been able to overcome not having the best of the best in the trenches on either side. And they've been able to do that with their skill players. They have some, surprisingly, they have some really good skill players on the outside for them.
Mm-hmm.
Losing Travis is gonna hurt because you don't have to worry about him on defense. You don't have to worry about him on offense. So that leaves you down a playmaker on offense. So you get to zero in on these other guys, and Oregon, Lanning is out there. He's gonna have the defense. He's getting that defense where he wants it, and I think he's gonna make it tough on. He's gonna make it tough on Shadur. You know what I mean? So Shadur's gonna have to have his best game. Shadur's gonna have that. This is probably gonna be his toughest game. You know what I mean? USC, they still ain't stopped. They can't stop a nosebleed.
Facts.
So I think this is probably gonna be Shadur's toughest game as a quarterback, and I think Oregon is gonna get to him a little bit, and I'll give Oregon. Oregon's gonna score. Oregon's gonna score 38. It's gonna be 38-17.
You took my Oregon score, but I'm gonna give Colorado 24 points. I like their ability to be able to dial up certain things. They've been very creative offensively, even though Travis, because Travis hasn't been the complete focal point of that offense. They've just been very opportunistic, and they do a lot of things offensively with their offensive coordinator that's been outstanding. But I'm like you. Lanning's out there. Their defense is really starting to come together at Oregon. They don't have the standard as we have at Georgia, even with Lanning going out there and building something special, but they're very consistent now, more than what they were previously. Bo Nix is out there still playing, having a pretty good season. They got a nice running game that creates balance for them. But I just don't think that, even though Colorado has played well up to this point against TCU, against Colorado State, now it's a higher level opponent. Oregon has bigger horses, and like you just said, everybody got the Jimmies and Joes, but everybody ain't got them type of Jimmies and Joes. And Oregon's another level right now than what Colorado is. So I'm going 38-24. They suffer their first loss, but I would not be surprised, man. We've seen crazier things. I mean, Prime is doing a very good job of bringing that locker room together to believe in themselves. And you've seen crazier things happen. So I would not be surprised if the craziest thing happens in terms of an upset. But I'm still going with Oregon 38-24. But hey, man, it's been another great night. We done with our predictions. You got anything else you wanna send out to the people before we get up out of here?
Nothing, man. Just go Dogs.
I hear you, man. Go Dogs. See y'all at 100 Sanford. And like Kirby said, just take it play by play. Let it go real slow. Let it go real slow. But we out of here, man. Thank you for listening to the 100 Sanford podcast. Tune in weekly to hear fresh content from the 100 Sanford podcast every Thursday, but also with some pop-up shows every now and then as news breaks. You can also follow the content on our website, www.100sanfordpodcast.com, and email us at dogs@100sanfordpodcast.com. Lastly, reach out to us on social media streams. For Twitter, it's at 100 Sanford, but on IG, TikTok, Facebook, and other accounts, it's 100 Sanford Podcast. All right, folks, that's it. And as usual, see you at 100 Sanford. What's funny, you know, we got people to talk about. They just go right around listening to the beat. We out of here, man.